visit with you guys for just a minute. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but the reason Big John is not here is because it is. They had to take the baby 3 weeks early because she got implanted. Well, she got toxemia. But she's okay. She's good. Baby's great. Everybody's happy and everybody's well. So, yay, thank you, God. Antonio is in Hawaii on business. What a love job. Yeah, I know. He either goes to Germany, all through Bavaria and the beautiful Switzerland on his job, or he goes to Hawaii. Ted's still got a wrenched back 3 weeks later. He can't even move. And by the time he drives in from Uvalde, he's paralyzed just from sitting so long.
How's Anne?
Anne's doing great. Let's see. Okay, I need to tell you that we got this huge, exorbitant bill from Florida radio show, and there's always been people from Florida with very large following in Florida. They have paid it, but this time they didn't. So I'm mostly saying this to YouTube for the people in Florida, so they know that if it doesn't start coming in, I paid it this month, but I'm not going to be able to keep doing that huge bill. So if you guys want to continue us on the air, then how nice can I put this?
You need support.
What?
You need support. You need support.
Then we need support. That's polite. Okay, so that's that. Maggie, tell us how it went. Everybody's been praying for you. Wondering.
Okay, long story short, when we got to the church, I wanted to run out. Literally, I was like looking for the exits, and I'm thinking any minute now.
Is it okay? Most everybody knows what you were afraid of. Is it okay if I tell them?
Yeah.
She was afraid of having a seizure while she was up there.
Yeah. And so I was really, really anxious, and I'm thinking I'm just gonna run out. It's just what's gonna happen. But I kept saying, but God, this isn't for me, and this isn't about me, and I'm not in the equation. And then of course it was Mother's Day, so they had every program you can think of, and I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, just let me get up there, you know? Exactly. And so by the time I got up there, they had like moved the pulpit, and I'm like, no, that's what I'm gonna hold on to. They got a chair for me to sit in, and it was amazing because the minute that I sit on that altar, the Lord's like, it's my time. And I preached my heart out for 40 minutes, and the thing about it, I usually go an hour and a half, no joke. But the amazing thing is that I haven't been able to stand up for 5 minutes on my own without having to sit down. And my translator couldn't keep up with me. And he was like, you know, he was a young kid, and he's looking at me like, and there was stuff that was coming out of my mouth that I knew this is really what's on the inside of me. And it was so powerful. And then there was 2 instant healings. There was a lady who had not been able to kneel down or bend down for 20 years. And she was like up and down, and she would not sit down. So that was amazing. And then there was this young kid who couldn't walk because his knee would pop out of place every time. And he takes the microphone from me, and he's like doing this with his leg. And he's like, it's not popping. And so that was really it was just amazing. It was amazing. And there was
What'd you preach on?
I preached about being sons of God and who we really are. And a lot of what you've poured in, really, a lot of not seeing what we see in the flesh and going after what's deeper than that, and we're sons of God. It was really like, do you understand that we are sons of God? And there was stuff that I was saying that I knew people were like, are you okay with saying that? Because it is different in our circles, you know, it is different with what.
Except that it's biblical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so definitely went to the book of Colossians and just talked about how, okay, even if there is an entity and that's what you want to believe, it's still been stripped of all its power, and there's nothing there. And the power that we have to
Boy, coming
exalt
from
right
you,
now.
this is hot.
It really was. I was like, wow. And it was so, God, it was so amazing, because in my old life, I was known for my shoes. Like anywhere I would go preach, everybody wanted to see my shoes, because I wore outlandish, crazy shoes all the time. So I would preach in stilettos, 6-inch stilettos, and that in itself is exercise. But so everybody wanted to see my shoes, and I knew if I preach in high heels, I'm for sure gonna hit the ground, and it's not gonna be the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, God, what do I do? And He's like, bling out a pair of Converse. Bling out. So I bedazzled. I love Converse. So I bedazzled my Converse, and so I was still known for my shoes. Everybody was still looking at my shoes, and it was like, she's back. And I was like, I am. It was
Now,
glorious.
have you accepted any of the other invitations?
I have not yet, but I know that just saying yes to this one, I almost felt like God was saying, this is what I've called you to do, so whether, you're going to have a seizure or not, this is what you're called to do. So do it. And so I'm ready to say yes to anything.
Yeah, I was praying, and that's what I heard too. You get up and you start living it and being it, and then the rest follows.
Yeah, and then I'll say
You don't
this.
wait until you're awesome, and you know you're awesome before you do it. You get up and you do what you gotta do, what you're told to do, and the rest will follow.
And I just felt so myself. I felt like this is who I am. And then, of course, because of the old way of thinking, people are praying against what's going to happen afterwards. And I was like, oh, I'm not even going to hear that. And I'm just saying this because we're talking about it. And I've had 3 seizures since. But it never crossed my mind that I was having seizures because I said yes to God.
Yeah.
And before, that's the first thing that would have happened. And it was just glorious because I was able to literally go through a seizure and say, God, I know you are bigger than this. You're more powerful than this. And it has nothing to do with any other power that's in existence. And before I was having a hard time with that. And so even that was huge. So
That's a healing. That's your healing, Maggie. Right?
yeah, and so I was just very excited, and I'm very grateful that y'all are praying for me. No.
Let me tell you, today we had 7 people lined up to, for ultrasounds. And we've been monitoring cancer in 6 of these 7 people. And the first time she came, it was just alive. Man, the screen was alive. And there was no doubt what was going on. 4 weeks later, all of them were smaller. 1 had disappeared. All of them were smaller. Several of them were dead. D-E-A-D. There was 2 that I still was concerned about because they were still alive in parts of them. Today, with the exception of 1 person who was not taking what she should have been taking, which is the reason why. But with that, putting aside that exception because that doesn't count, everybody else's was not just better, it had vanished. There was 100% vanished. She said, Tara, I have never lived through a day like this in my life. I have never seen anything like this in my life. She's the one that does the ultrasounds. She said, I love coming here. You never know what you're going to see. But it was very exciting. It made no difference whether it was a large mass in a pelvis. It made no difference if it was multiple masses in a breast. It made no difference. So I have no concern about it still being alive.
Amen.
I have no concern.
Amen.
So just letting you know. Then the body's got to eat it up, to carry it away, and do you understand? And that's another process. That's a process. Okay, so anyway, it's very exciting. Today. I was reading in Ezekiel in the middle of the night, and I ran into this scripture. Remember we talked a couple weeks ago how the way of the Lord is always from the east to the west. This way. East to the west, right? It follows from the east to the west. Salvation is from the east to the west. And it's all the way through this way. Because the sun rises in the east, and the noonday is the brightest understanding and anointing. And then it moves on into the west. So, you know the story about the Good Samaritan. And the guy that got beat up by robbers, and does it say thieves and robbers? Because that sounds like the same identical thing. But anyway, that's what I remember. They beat him up. He was on his way to Jericho. He was Jewish. No, he was not. He was Samaritan. He was on his way to Jericho. So he was going, instead of coming from Jerusalem out, he was going against the tide of the Spirit. Do you understand? He was going against the flow and the tide of the Spirit. Hence, he was an open door for something to come into him because he had stepped out from under his covering. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Do you understand that? Okay, well, anyways, I ran into this. This is talking about the building of the temple, which is tedious to read, much less try to understand. But it says this, then he brought me back the way of the gate of the inward sanctuary, which looketh toward the east, and it was shut. Then said the Lord unto me, this gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, hath entered in by it, therefore it shall be shut. It is for the prince, he shall sit in it. He shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. Does that say anything to you? No man shall enter in, only the prince shall enter in, to that inner sanctuary. Man, is it just me?
No.
No. You don't, guys, who's the prince?
Jesus.
Who is the prince?
Jesus.
What's his name?
Jesus.
Okay. Try to understand this. No man can enter in, only the prince can enter in. So what is that saying to you?
More man can't go.
There you go. That we can't carry our own mortality and all of our burdens and concerns into this inner sanctuary and get in. There's no getting in. The only thing that gets in is the prince. So if you're going to enjoy the presence of God in that inner sanctuary, which the Lord God entered in, it says, then you're going to have to go in under the covering of the prince. Do you understand? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to talk about how that happens. How you do that, how that happens. I thought that was awesome. Middle of the night, that's pretty good. I never saw it before. Well, I do too. So I'm going to give you all a chance to throw out your thoughts for just a minute of how you think the best way to get into that presence and to get into that space. Obviously, I'm looking for an answer, a certain answer, but just do your best.
Through the blood.
No doubt. Through the blood means that you are identifying with the life of Jesus Christ, because the life is in the blood. The blood is the life. Okay, that's for sure. Oh, come on, guys.
Talking about meditation on.
Yes, that's the answer. Meditating. Should have said it. Hey.
They're afraid of you.
No, I'm not afraid of See? He's afraid of me. You should be.
Or I should go there, all right.
Meditation. And when you can get into whatever meditation is, you are in that presence, and whatever you are holding before that mercy seat, holding before the Lord, you will, without a doubt, have the petition or the desire or the intention that you need fulfilled. No doubt. There's no way that there is anything that can touch you or confront you, that can overcome you, if you choose to stop reaching out this way. You know? That's another thing that we saw on the ultrasounds. Last time, the time before last time, there were just fingers going out everywhere. It's an awful, ugly, nasty disease. And there were fingers going out everywhere. And this time, everything was closed in, real tight, very, very small, and you could see through it. Like before, it was this color because it was so dense. And today it was less than this gray. You could just see through it. It's just, and no more fingers going anywhere. We are so blessed.
Amen.
We are so incredibly blessed to have this. Anyway, I'm sorry. It occupied 6 hours of my day, so. And it was not shocking, but it was so wonderful. I can't get too much past it. Okay, so what was I saying? There is always a way to have whatever the situation is fixed, healed, restored. Always, not just once in a while, but always. Answered. Wisdom, whatever is needed. But that's the place where you can guarantee that it will happen. In that space, space. So how do you get in there? Well, everything you read says, oh, you have to get so still and so quiet. And that is, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I can't do it.
Me.
I can't do it, and I've been doing this since I was 27 years old. I'm 72. You know, those numbers just turned. See, that's cool. And I still can't do it. And I'm not going to try, because it's just futile. But what I do is I read something. Like, I read that thing. And that was, 45 minutes in the middle of the night of realizing that I could enter, and did, into that space and know that whatever was needed or whatever was what, it would be resolved, or it would be healed, or it would be, for anybody. It just depends on whatever was on my mind, which I can't even remember what was on my mind. Probably wishing I could sleep again, but, and I did. I went back to sleep, by the way, so maybe it was that. But I always have to either listen to some praise and worship, on Pandora, to go to real deep praise and worship stations, or this, or something else that I'm reading. It's just powerful. It just comes alive. And when it does, I close the book. I may read it 5 or 6 times, but I close the book, because when I feel that, I know I'm being ushered into that space, and I don't want to miss it. Do you understand? So that's how I do. Anybody got other suggestions before I go on?
I just have to sing Hallelujah over and over and over, the song Hallelujah, because otherwise my mind's, going all over the place, but that really helps me to get down into that space.
Good. Anybody else?
Sing.
What?
Sing as well.
Sing, yes. That's what she just said. All right. I'm going to read something to you. And I want you guys to close your eyes. And I probably don't really want you to open them for a while. Okay, so just don't go to sleep, because you'll snore and everybody will know. But just be still and see if you can't give us something to think about. Your strength comes from the unchangeable, eternal, ever-present life of the Creator of all things. That strength is never diminished, regardless of the human circumstances. Because your life does not come from your body. Do not give your body that kind of power. Be with the life that really does surround you. Right this moment. And be grateful for it. And your body will begin to feel the energy of that life. Close your eyes. You may not feel gratitude right now, but you can give gratitude for what you know is always there. That's important. Be grateful for the life that surrounds you, the divine life that brought you forth, formed you, breathed itself into you. For that life is the reason that you exist. So keep your eyes closed. Anybody ever got to a place where your physical strength was all but gone? And you knew that you had no strength within you that would enable you to continue living much longer? And yet you live. And you live better than you were at that time. And if you were to take that poor fragile body that's been through God knows what, into that space, and your testimony and your confession, not out of your mouth but in your heart, is, my strength does not come from my body. My strength is not determined by the circumstances. My strength comes from the life, the only life, the one life that is. I may not feel it. I may not have ever felt that. And yet I know that it's true. And so because I know it's true, I give thanks for it. And I stand here soaking up the strength of that life, knowing that it will fill my being. And because I have come for that strength and received that strength, I will live. Have you ever felt your life in such defeat and despair that you despaired of going another step? You really didn't want to go another step because the joy was gone, the hope was gone, everything was gone that meant something to you in your life. And you were left all alone, or at least feeling alone. You couldn't have mustered up a thank you, God, if somebody put a gun in your hand. You couldn't have mustered up a gratitude because you couldn't come up with anything that you were grateful for. But you had hit the bottom of the dregs. All hope was gone. And you were covered in despair. And yet, you can cover yourself with the garment of the righteousness of Jesus Christ, the holiness of Jesus Christ, the purity of Jesus Christ, and march into that space. And stay there knowing that hope does not come from your circumstances. Joy does not come because something went right when tomorrow can go wrong. Hope and joy come from that life. And you can stand in that space. And you can soak up the hope and the joy that's ever present. And you can stay there and soak it up until you know that it has filled your being. And then you can stay there some more. And you can know this. When you walk out of that space, the attitude and the perception and that which fills you now will cause the circumstances to be corrected. Some people have shoved that despair and hopelessness down so deep and just went on with their life, but they didn't know what to do with it. The disappointment that circumstances can cause, the shattering of your heart and your soul, and that other people could do, or circumstances can do to you. And they think, well, I'll tough it out, then I'll get up and I'll keep going. But it's still there. But it doesn't have to be. It can be healed. It can be replaced with joy, and with hope, and with life again. The interesting thing is, when we receive what we think we don't have in that space from that life, and we walk out of that space again, the most interesting thing is that because our perception has changed and our conscious awareness has changed, we are able to see an instant reversal and change of the circumstances. Let's say that you have lived a loveless life and not really felt the depths of the love that you want to experience. You know, you could be with somebody for your whole life and just march on and be kind of quasi-happy, but you know something huge is missing. So you can run around and join different churches and see what their singles group looks like. You know, or you could get a divorce and try something new. Or you could reach out with multiple different ways and means of fulfilling that. Or you can go into the source of love. And you can soak up the depths of that love until your entire being has never been more filled with love than it is right there. And you feel it in every ounce and inch of your body, and your soul, your mind. And the very interesting thing is, that at some point when you finally decide to come out, you are a person who is so filled with love that you attract it. And it comes to you without you having to move one step to the right or the left. It appears. let's say you've got something in your personality that has caused people to turn away from you and run, cause people to leave you, not want to be in your presence. And you have tried, and you've tried, and you've tried, and nothing seems to change. It keeps coming back. Because you think for some strange moment that there's something you can do to change that, when you don't even know what's working in your soul that's causing it. But you could go into that space, and you can open your heart and your mind and your entire being to the holiness and the purity of God. Not think about that thing that everybody talks about, or that thing you keep seeing in yourself. Thinking only about, I am surrounded by the intensity of this life. And it's pure, and it's holy, and it's good, it's warm, it's loving, and it's attractive. I'm going to stay in this presence until I know I'm filled. Let's say you have a situation that's really pressing on you, and you've got to make a decision. And what I hear all the time is, I'm looking at my options. What a disaster. I'm looking at my options. When all the while, God has options that you can't even imagine. And so you go in there knowing that you're standing in the presence of infinite wisdom. Knowing that you can soak up all the knowledge, all the understanding, and all the wisdom that is needed to walk right into the plan and purpose of God for that moment. And so you stay in there until you know that's yours, it's your possession. And you walk out, and oh my goodness, there's the answer that I would have never seen. A job, employment, so many issues, finances. Okay, now I'm looking at my checkbook. I'm looking at the stock market. I'm looking at my investments. I'm looking at my savings account. How sad. And Jesus showed us when he fed the multitude with the bread and the 2 loaves, 2 fish, the multitude of thousands. Where that supply comes from. Where does it come from? We don't need 3 jobs. We need to go into that space until everything that we know that we need is supplied. We feel the fullness of supply pouring into us. We don't try to figure anything out. We just let it fill us over and over and over and over again. Until we feel the abundance of the goodness of God. And we never ever look to the checkbook again to see if we have enough. We go back into that space, and we always have enough. that say your body, they've told you your body is riddled with disease. And they want to scare you into doing this and scare you into that and terrify you into going this way and that way. But the wise in heart will not move from their spot, but find their way into that space. And find the guidance and direction that they need. Or hear the word that they need, or whatever. And know that I'm drawn from something that is so eternal and so uncorruptible that it will guide me into life, no matter what I've been told, no matter what I've heard. You can open your eyes. Does that make you feel like there's a good enough reason for one to do this? Is there a good enough reason to one to do this and to make it what you do and not the last thing on the list when everything else is failed? Right? Did I miss something that somebody wished I had said, circumstance, something? I covered a lot. Covered a lot. I didn't cover our kids. Our kids. They must be mine because they came right out of my body. They had to be my kids. I have to have absolute responsibility for everything that happens, even in their future, even when I don't know what their future's going to do. I can't let go of that. Well, their mother. I can't let go of that. I can't go into that space and trust that they belong to God and He knows what He's doing and that He'll open the way. They're not praying. They probably won't even hear. See how silly? See how silly? It's the only reason that we lack anything that we lack is because we're not going into the right space. This is more than just kneeling down and praying and asking for direction. It really is, because you can get direction and still be unsure. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what. Do you understand? This is, and I'll tell you another thing. Kneeling down, asking for direction can be a very mortal experience. But when you go into that place, only the prince can go in. You go in as an immortal Son of God, laying claim to the fullness of God, because that's your inheritance. That's your possession. The fullness of God is your possession. Don't you grin at me. The fullness of God is your possession. And the only time that it's your possession is when you're in that one life. Otherwise, you can lay claim all you want, but it's going to escape you. Do you understand? Ezekiel 44 says, I am your inheritance, and I am your possession, and you are my possession. So it goes both ways. So if the prince is the only one that goes in there, you've got to be in that covering and understanding, whether you feel it that moment or not. And you may not, you may be in the depths of God knows what and not feel it. God, I wish I had known this when Margaret died. The despair that came over me was astonishing. And how long it lasted? Easily 4 years. Easy. I don't know how I kept living and breathing. I didn't know. I was immortal doing my religious thing. I was immortal trying to be spiritual, trying to, memorize the Bible, do what was right. When everything I knew fell apart. Everything I believed about God and knew fell apart. And it was the best 4 years because I came out seeing everything different. Completely, 100% completely different. 180-degree difference. And when that despair tried to come over me again when I lost my sister, I realized that I was feeling what a spirit of death feels like. It was the first time I ever felt it. Not realizing that despair is death, disease is death. All those are just the same spirit of death coming, camouflaging itself as something different. It's all death. Dummy. Dummy death, dummy death. I didn't know it. But I could feel the presence of death, and I said out loud, walking between two buildings, if I don't get a grip on this, I'm going to be next. And I knew I was. And I said, I choose the one life. That's all I said. You know how many times I said it in one day? Without exaggerating. 300 times. Constantly, I had to keep saying, I choose one life. I choose that life. I choose life. I choose life. I choose life. I choose life. Because otherwise, it was so crowding me and taking me that I couldn't. If I stopped saying it for a minute, it had me. 4 months later, my entire life was turned around. My entire life was turned around. And I'm not saying that I could talk about it and not cry, but I wasn't engulfed with that horrible, crushing, dark, insidious spirit that was trying to take my life. Do you understand? There's a big difference between sadness and the kind of grief that turns to despair. There's a big difference. And yet, I did it as a mortal. I choose, 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 I choose. I mean, really, please. In the middle of the night. But we're beyond mortality. We're beyond mortality. We're way into the immortal Son of God. Way deep into it. Whether we feel like it or not, or whether we're experiencing it right now or not, we're deep in it. And we can identify with and as the Prince because we are the righteousness of God in Christ. Because we are the holiness of God, the purity of God, the altogether being of the Holy One. And knowing that, whether you feel it or not, should carry you into that space. Because spending time in there, soaking up what you thought you did not have, can change it in an instant. It will change it. It won't be something that, you have to fight your way through for the next 4 months or the next 4 years, whatever. It changes. It changes. I want everybody who's in this room that got one of those excellent reports today, and I want to talk to the others that are not here. tonight. To go into that space, drawing from that one life, the strength and the purity and the wholeness of that life, the incorruptibility of it. And I say that because I don't want you to depend on a product. You know, I mean, God gave us it. There's no doubt about that. God handed it to us. Shocking the way it happened. And, you know, you're grateful for the rest of your life. There's a lot of people who will take it and will never even hear these words and not do it. And they get the benefit of it, and I'm so grateful for that. But you guys are sons of God. And even taking it and continuing, you go in there and you get that strength pulled into you and that life, the incorruptible, undefiled. What are those other words that the good meant when he saw man that he made and called him good?
It was in the first sentence.
Immutable, unchangeable, incorruptible,
Indestructible, unchangeable, and perfect.
indestructible. You go in until you are filled with the indestructible sense of being that one life. And you do it, Maggie. You do it whether you have an MRI or not. You do it. Because it's the truth. You don't wait until all the symptoms are gone. You just do it. Who said so?
We are fearfully and wonderfully made.
You are his masterpiece, created in perfection.
Whole and complete.
You are his masterpiece, created in perfection. Go in until you feel it filling your being. Until no matter if something's growing out your nostril, for God's sake, you can still say, no, I am full of this life. It's indestructible. Say it.
Indestructible, incorruptible, unchangeable, and perfect.
And you should feel it. You stay until you feel the presence of that has filled your whole being. Now you tell me where a spirit of death can still hang out. Where can it lurk around a corner? Where can it creep in? That's not to say that you stop going and getting everything aligned, but your dependency is not there. Right? You see what I'm saying? Okay, somebody say something. You've got 5 minutes.
I remember when my family fell apart, and we sat talking one day, and you said to me, well, you don't trust God. And I said, I don't. I don't trust. I prayed for 24 years. My family was falling apart. And you said to me, well, this is what I want you to say. I choose to trust.
I choose to trust.
I choose to trust. And just like you said, where you say it, 300 times a day, I would just go, when, the overwhelmingness of life came, I would just sit there and say, I just choose.
By the way, that's the overwhelmingness of death, but go ahead.
Yeah. And I would just say that. I choose to trust. I choose to trust. And, it may be a mortal approach to it.
So what?
But it brings you to a deeper and deeper and deeper understanding. And
Barbara, if we don't have these mortal ways to do it,
yeah,
before we ever move into the Son of God essence, what would we have?
Yeah.
And what would the rest of the world have?
Yeah.
I choose to trust when you can't trust. When all trust is gone. When you feel like you've been betrayed and abandoned by God. When you feel like you have done everything that you knew to do. And still look what happened. And you think, how can I, where do I go to find trust? You know, what happened? You know, even if I did something horrible, what about forgiveness? What about the blood of the Lamb? What about, you know, what about mercy? But I choose to trust because I must trust. By the way, you don't offend God. Not possible. It'd be like offending the wind if you choose not to go out and feel the wind. Let's see, I'll go out today, I'll offend the wind, and I won't go out. It's about that crazy. Right? You can't offend that eternal spirit of holiness. It doesn't offend. That was good, Barb. Anybody else?
Let me say something real quick. I think with what happened after Sunday with, you know, having the seizures again, like I said, it was a real crossroad again to say, okay, what am I going to believe here? Am I going to trust God? And even though everything in my mind wanted to go back to what I've learned in the past, and everything was saying, this is why this is happening, out of my mouth, I was like, no,
Good.
it cannot be. And so even though I didn't feel it, even though I didn't believe it, because I expected something different. I expected, God, I said yes, I did what you wanted me to do. Now it's your turn. You know, that's just as real as it gets. I'm like,
That's it.
and then I was able to say, but God, you've already done everything. You know, you've already done everything, and it's my turn to just rest in this. And God took me to, this was months ago, but he took me to scripture out of Lamentations. It's chapter 3, verse 22. And it says, the Lord is my portion. And one translation says, he rewards me with himself. And at the end of it, at the end of everything that was, I mean, literally, that's what I was singing. I'm having a seizure and I'm singing, the Lord is my portion. He rewards me with himself. And period. I'm not going to be
come a
moved.
long way.
Yeah. I mean, literally, I'm sitting right there. It was like, the Lord is my all this is going on. And even though I was scared, because I want to bring up the moral part about it, because even that wants to run in your mind, like, well, you're not doing this right because you're scared, or you're doing it the mortal way, or this is still taking place. And it's so sweet because God's like, I didn't call you to be right. I said you were righteous.
Oh, perfect.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And so,
That's very
and at that moment, it's just like I give up my right to be right, and I just want to be righteous. I don't want to have to get it right or wrong, or did I do it? And this is why this happened, or this is why this set it in motion. I'm righteous. I'm walking in with the Prince already. There's nothing that can change that.
No, you can't even walk in with the Prince. You have to identify as the Prince.
Yeah.
Because the Prince is the only thing that gets in. But that is perfect.
Yeah.
That is perfect. And just to let you know, there isn't anybody who has gone through this thing that we're talking about here that does not still feel the symptoms. And in some cases still feel them, and sometimes excruciating. And yet, there was nothing there. So you've got a lot of nerve endings that need to heal. And do you understand? You've got a lot of stuff that, who knows?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff being carried off, a lot of nerve endings that need to be healed. A lot of neurological pathways that need to be reestablished. Do you understand? And they've all called and said, you know, if this is really going away, why am I feeling this terrible pain? I'm doubled over on the floor. And, you know,
It's contradiction.
well, of course. And, you know, now I've got my ammunition. And I can say, but still. So yet will I rejoice in the Lord. What does it say in Habakkuk? Though the fig tree shall not blossom, there be no, though the something tree shall not blossom, there be no figs on the vine. Oh, forget it, I should read it. It's really beautiful, and I don't want to botch it up. Habakkuk. Okay, where's Habakkuk? It's hiding from me. Micah, Jonah, Amos, Joel. What? Oh.
Where's under your nose?
Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall the fruit be in the vine. The labor of the olive shall fail, and the fields shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, and I will joy in the God of my salvation.
Amen.
The Lord God is my strength, and he will make my feet like hinds' feet, and he will make me walk upon my high places. Amen.
Amen.
Good night.